Hey, you guys. How's it going over there? How's things? So I thought it would be a good day. I've got everything put away, got all the bundles shipped out, all the fabric bundles except for two um, that will be going out uh, probably Monday. Anyway, so let's do this little thing with the templates. And as I said before, I am working on trying to get these listed as a digital on my Etsy shop. Got to find somebody to do it for me though. So just saying. I mean, I could probably do it. Imagine I probably can. I just haven't tried. So anyway, so I had some ideas that I thought were kind of fun and involving the templates and some fabric and also some paper. So it can be any kind of paper. A heavier weight paper probably works better, like a cardstock or something like that. But so here's what I was doing that I thought was kind of fun. I didn't do these in the journals that I just sold, but anyways, I just wanted to kind of give you guys some ideas really about how to use these. So there's lots of ways to cut fabric, lots of ways to cut paper. You can use a scan and cut. You can print on fabric with your printer if you are comfortable with doing that. But, you know, a lot of times you have pieces of paper that you want to use that don't exactly fit in your printer, or it's just like a scrap of paper or something. So this is a good way to kind of use those and use them with pockets and not have to use them in a printer or set up the scan and cut or the Cricut or whatever you're using. So basically what I'm trying to do is turn this fabric into kind of like a usable paper, you know, into fabric that's almost like paper. So I'm just gonna use my little, this is a really, I've had this thing for years for ironing at my desk. I've ironed probably 5,000 pages of coffee dyed paper on here. So basically what I'm going to do is use the spray starch and just use some of these little scraps. And I just want to do it on camera so that you guys can see, you know, how it turns out and how much more usable it is. So this is just a piece of old feed sack fabric. This is the spray starch I'm using. I got this at Target. It was like $2.50 for a giant can. So I'm just going to spray it until it's pretty wet. Like, you know, you want it to kind of penetrate through to the front and back. And again, as you're doing this, you want to keep the iron moving. Don't let it just sit in one spot. Otherwise, it'll kind of stick. And it's funny, I was talking to my mom about this yesterday, and she was saying how, actually, I'm just going to cut this piece a little smaller. She was talking about when she was younger, how she hated using spray starch because it always stuck to the iron. So anyway, so you can see it's actually getting a little bit more rigid. Okay, so I turned it over and I'm going to spray it again. So you want to do a couple coats of the spray starch until, you know, it is actually pretty rigid. And, you know, you can just do it back and forth. You want to iron it until it's not steaming anymore and it's dry. Okay. If it's still just a slightly damp, but it's stiff enough, you can just set it aside and let it dry. So I'm just going to do a couple more pieces. I really like this. So this is a great way to use up scraps you know, you can use any fabric, right? Like shirts that you got from the thrift store. I mean, you know, I always look through, well, I haven't been lately, but you know, look through the aisles at the thrift store for just fabric that you like. Don't, you know, it doesn't even have to be an article of clothing that you like, but just look at the fabrics, you know, and look at the patterns and see if there's something that grabs your eye. You know, look through the, you know, different sizes in the thrift store. Some of the thrift stores I go to, they organize clothing by color, which I think is kind of weird and kind of annoying. But so they put like all the pink blouses together, but then the sizes are all mixed up, you know. Anyway, so I'm just ironing this, a couple coats of the spray starch until it's relatively stiff. So I'm going to do another coat. And the more you do this, the you know, more rigid the fabric will get. And most of these won't like leave a lot of buildup on the surface. But if you're concerned about that, then just continue adding layers to the back that you're not going to see so much. So that's pretty good. Let's just do one more. Let's do a piece of a little bit heavier fabric. This is some ticking. And I always like to tear ticking for some reason. Okay, let's make a piece of this too. So I'm just spraying it until I feel like it's really going to soak in. I love ironing. I think ironing is like right up there with fussy cutting. You know, it's just kind of one of those sort of Zen activities, right? So the thicker fabrics, you know, it takes a little bit longer for them to dry. Anyway, leave me a comment if you love to iron. Oh my God, you guys, I'm telling you, I scored at one of my local thrift stores a couple days ago, and I plan to do a little bit of a haul video. It's all linens. And I mean, I sat there going through this box. So this is pretty rigid. I'm happy with it the way it is. Anyway, I sat there going through this box of all their linen stuff for probably about an hour. And Mom was with me, and I think she got a little bored, but it's whatever. I'm just going to do a little piece of this this quilt top too. I know you guys didn't want to just sit here and watch me iron, but I just think it's interesting, you know, good for you guys to see how these different types of fabrics, how usable they become once you starch them, and you can use them in different ways. So this is something that I would do if I was planning to use a piece of fabric in a journal, like as a journal page. Would be really good to starch it first, and that way, you know, the end user could actually write on it, you know, and it becomes, you know, sort of rigid in the journal. So I'm doing 2 layers of starch on here, one on the front, one on the back. And you could just do 2 coats on the back if that's what you wanted to do. I think it would actually penetrate through to the front anyway. So let's see, it's gotten relatively stiff. Got my iron set on high. Okay, so that's pretty good. I mean, that's, you know, but it's still soft, you know, like it doesn't feel weird or anything. Okay, so let me unplug the iron, set it aside somewhere where I won't burn myself. And I'm going to plug my sewing machine in real quick. All right. So you guys get the idea about starching fabric and how that sort of turns it into, almost turns it into a piece of paper. Like you can think of it as paper almost, right? So I've got these templates, and so they're different sizes. Some are envelopes. These are envelopes. These are more like pockets. This is a pocket. This is a pocket. Just fussy cut out, you know. And then I printed them in just different sizes, you know, 4 to a page or 2 to a page, depending on, you know, what size you want them to be. So just print out a bunch of those, and, you know, and then you can cut them apart as needed. So let's just work on this one for now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a piece of this paper. This is the this is one of these packs, Tim Holtz, the Ideology. I got a couple of these at Joann's the other day. They were half price, so I picked up 2 of each one. This is volume 3 and this is volume 1. I love these papers. Okay, so I'm just going to set that down, and I'm going to trace around it with a pencil. If I can find a pencil. Okay, just going to lightly So I'm working on paper for this one, okay, obviously. And then I just want to add some fabric elements to it. You know what? I'm switching scissors. Fast forward if you hate watching people fussy cut things, or if you hate watching people iron things or whatever. I know someone's going to be tempted to leave a comment and say, you know, you could just fast forward through that part. When I gain some video editing skills, then maybe I'll start doing stuff like that. But anyway, so there's a little pocket, and this paper is cool because it's double-sided. But so you'll want to fold based on these 2 little corners here, and try to make this, you know, as straight up and down as you can. Okay, so then this template, you have to fold that part up first, and then just using the edge of this as a guide, it's going to fold actually at an angle. Okay, so it's not perfectly straight up and down. You could use a you could definitely use your scoreboard to make that crease before you start folding it, but I prefer to just do it like that. So okay, so just like that. So now I've got my kind of like my base for a pocket. And then let's take this this little piece of feed sack. And so what I want to do is I want to make a piece of fabric that will, well, I mean, you could use fabric to cover any part of this. So what I'm going to do actually is turn this way and that way. And then I'm just going to make this front piece out of fabric. Okay. So I'm actually going to cut this. I'm going to fold it. This is why it's good to print out a whole bunch of these. And so you could actually cut kind of like patterns or templates for all the different shapes associated with your envelope or your pocket. So then I'm just going to place this down, and I'm going to again take my pencil, trace around it. And you obviously could, sorry, I'm kind of screwing this up. You could just glue this down to the front if you wanted to. But this way it kind of gives you options about, as far as like, you know, maybe you don't want it to cover the whole, you know, the whole front part of the pocket. Maybe you just want it to cover half of it or something. I don't know. Anyway, so see, it makes it much easier to cut this out with the starch. I mean, it still takes a little bit of effort, but it just, I don't know, it just makes it a lot easier to work with. Okay, cut that off at the bottom. Works really well if you have super sharp scissors too. Okay, and then I just want to glue that onto the front, and that way I just know that it's going to fit, and I don't have to worry about trying to trim it off after I glued like a piece of fabric onto that piece. Does that make sense, you guys? Like, so I could just take this and just glue it on there and then let the glue dry and then cut that out, cut off the excess. But I just kind of like doing it this way because I know that it's going to fit perfect. And yeah, so there's a little, just added a little fabric element to this pocket pretty easily, you know. And then of course we could add little, you know, some other kinds of embellishments or something, or just something really simple like a little bee or something. I'm going to stitch these on the sewing machine too. So actually I'm going to put this little ladybug right there, and I'm just going to use a tiny bit of my glue stick to just tack it down. Okay, because I'm gonna sew this on the sewing machine, and then it'll get attached when I sew it. So the other thing that I thought was kind of fun would be to just make a make an envelope out of fabric. You know, let's find one of the templates one of the envelope templates. Let's use, I think I have one already cut out. Hold on. Hold the phone. Well, maybe not. Okay, let's do, pretty sure that one will fit on there. Yeah. So got to cut this one out real quick. The other nice thing about using the starch is that you can just finger crease things too. And just makes using fabric a little bit more user-friendly, you know, and maybe encourages you to actually use some of those pieces that you got in your kit. So yeah, we're kind of just using fabric like paper, right? Okay, so then I'm gonna, and I know that this is gonna be, the pattern is gonna be kind of cattywampus on here, but that's okay. I sort of like it that way. So I'm just using my pencil and just gently tracing the outline. You could tack this down with like a tiny piece of tape or something like that if you know you're afraid it's going to move around, but there we go. And I'm actually going to use my fabric scissors to cut this one out because, okay, I'm going to cut this off like this first. Isn't this fun? Yeah, I cannot wait to show you guys all that fabric stuff that I got from that thrift store. So they have like a vintage section in the thrift store. So, you know, the stuff that's there is a little bit higher price, but anyway, so then this one just folds up pretty much the same. Just go to your corners and see, you can kind of finger crease these with your, because of the starch. Okay. So then this is the bottom. Oh, I forgot. I still need the iron. Okay, so cut out a little envelope. I'm gonna plug the iron in again because I want you guys to see how cool this turns out. It heats up pretty fast. So you could actually then take your template and say you wanted a different piece of fabric on the back. You know, you could just cut this template, cut this apart into the shapes of the envelope, and then glue those down like piecework, right? Like, what do they call it? Paper piecing or whatever. So like you could cut the flap off and then that's a pattern. And then, you know, you could use a different piece of fabric and just cut out the flap and glue it down to the flap. I mean, this is kind of tedious doing this on little tiny pieces, but you know, if you have the patience, then, you know, do it. But you could also print this envelope template off like as a full page too. So you could be working on a larger piece, you know, instead of just a little tiny thing. So let me grab my little fabric here and my starch. Those in. And I'm going to give it a really good coat of starch. Okay. Kind of put it back together how it goes. And then iron. Whoops. See? Hold on. Hold the phone. I'm going to turn it over. There we go. There, that's easier. Just iron it until it's basically dry. Of course, you could use fabric glue to piece it together too. Like if you wanted to cut out a different element of the envelope out of a different fabric, you could just glue it with fabric glue. But see, I don't know. I just think it's kind of fun and to make a little envelope out of fabric. And then you could glue it together if you want to. You could do some stitching around the edges, or around the the outside edge of the envelope. Do a little zigzag stitch. Let's do it and see how it looks. You want to? Okay, have to unplug the iron again. I only have one open outlet over here. Like I said, I just wanted to give you guys ideas about using these. And you could do it with any of those shapes, any of the envelopes, any of the pockets. So this should be, where's my little pocket I made? Great, I lost it. Of course I did. Oh, there it is. Okay, so here's our this little guy. Okay, so I'm going to set this on a really kind of narrow zigzag. Using the Singer Fashion Mate. Sewing machine. Okay. So I just did a little row of stitching around the edge of that. And then I'm going to want to glue this down. Actually, I think I might do a little bit of stitching right along the back of that. And then we'll glue that down. Let's see how this works on on this little envelope. I just went across the little flap. It's a little tedious trying to do the whole thing on this little tiny piece. Just gotta go slow. Try not to stitch over your fingers. Okay. So there's the little envelope made out of fabric. And like I said, I'll probably actually close this up with some fabric glue. This guy, we can go ahead and close them up. So I like to put the glue on this part. Right along that very outside edge. Okay, so a little fabric pocket with a little fabric envelope inside. Obviously, you know, you could just do that whole, this whole pocket on a piece of fabric. And I would probably not use something that has a bunch of stitching on the back. You have to be aware of the, so this part, this is going to face you. When this folds up, then that's going to face you, right? So if we, let me see if I can actually explain this. Well, here's a better way to do this maybe. So if we turn this, put that on that side. Okay, I'm just going to try this and see how it works so that we don't wind up with the back of the fabric on the front of our pocket. I haven't done this before, so let's just bear with me here. See if this works. So I guess I could have just flipped it over. Like I didn't have to necessarily use these two pieces, but. Or I could have just cut it. No, I don't want to cut it. I don't want to cut it. Okay. Yeah, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to work the way I thought. What I'm trying to do, is make this pocket just out of fabric, but I think what's going to wind up happening is it's going to have to be attached to something else. See if I can just get this cut out. Okay. So basically what I was trying to do, so I'm going to cut this here. And then I want it to be like that so that both pieces are the front side. Okay. And I guess, you know, it's okay if this, oh, you know what? Hold on here. Let's do this. Let's find another piece of paper that has, I'll just use a piece of ledger. Hang on, let me grab a piece of ledger paper. I want to get this done now. I want to do it. Here it is. had one that I wanted to use specifically. Okay. So I'm going to cut this out now. I guess this would have worked to just, you know, cut the whole thing out of paper and then cut one out of fabric, but actually cut it into two pieces. But you guys get what I'm saying about the fabric. Like, I want the front to show the front of the fabric on the top and bottom of the pocket, you know. Do that. And then glue that down. I guess I could stitch this along the bottom with the sewing machine. Fold this over. Fold this over. Oh, I know. And then I'm going to cut this off. Yeah. Because that's the only piece that I really want anyway, and I don't want all of that fabric bunching up under where I folded this. So I really just want this piece. I figure things out eventually, you guys. I figure it out eventually. Okay, so I'm going to put some glue on here. I know this was a lot of fuss about, you know, making a little pocket, but this is kind of how I come up with ideas about, you know, how to make stuff. It's like just trying it and playing around with it. And you know, I may go through a lot of hassle while I'm doing that, but while I go through all that hassle, that's how I figure out a way to do it maybe better and quicker or something, you know, like if I want to make, you know, 50 of them. So that's one thing that I will tell you. This is sort of my process and how I come up with new ideas about how to do stuff. So that's kind of cool. I sort of like that. But this probably should be also on some kind of paper. I don't necessarily want to, well, I'm just going to do it on a piece of this ledger paper anyways, but see what I'm saying? Just to give it some stiffness and also make it easier to sort of put this thing together. So I guess the best thing to do would be maybe to just cut one of each out. Cut one out of paper, cut one out of fabric, and then, you know, glue them together how you want them to show on the front. So that's probably what I would do, you know, cut out a bunch out of fabric and cut out a bunch out of paper, cut them in half, and then, you know, glue them together and then assemble. Not glue them together. Yeah, glue the pieces on top of the other and then assemble them. So there, like that. Okay, so now I can use the paper that's on the back. I can stitch around here. I can stitch across the top and then glue that down. Okay, glue that on here and then stitch across the bottom. So I don't know. I just think it looks really cute. And there really isn't any other way to do that, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't think there would be an easier way of doing that necessarily. I mean, unless you wanted to glue a whole bunch of fabric onto paper and then trace them out and cut them out that way, which, you know, could work. Like if you had a big quilt top or something and you just cut them to 8.5 by 11 or 12 by 12, glued them down to your paper, you know, but you want to make sure that there's, I mean, for me, like I would want to make sure that this paper that folds over the edges is something that I want to look at, you know. Anyway, but I'm obsessed with this pocket shape. I just think it's really cute, and I love the history of it. It was a little paper cup that was in an envelope in some ephemera that I got, and it said keep in the car. And so what it is it was a drinking cup. Like, so you would, you know, push it like this and open, fill it with water, and then you could drink out of it, you know. So they're sort of like drinking cup pockets, I guess. Anyway, but you can do that. You can do the same sort of idea with any of the, you know, any of these envelope shapes. This is a little coin envelope. This is just kind of a pretty little decorative envelope. This one is like a library pocket. This is the drinking cup. You know, there's a few different envelopes, and then that envelope, and then this envelope. And of course, right, you can embellish these a gazillion different ways, you know. Use one of these little, I'm also obsessed with these little guys, these little stamped images, you know. Like I think that would be super cute, just right on the front of that little pocket, you know. So anyway, I just want to show you guys how I kind of am thinking like it's cool to use fabric like paper, and how to get it, you know, to a state that you can use it that way. Now, I mean, if you're not into using the spray starch and all that, you know, you could just fiddle around with using some of the wider double stick tape or the big wide carpet tape, and doing it that way. But you can't stitch through it with the sewing machine because it will seriously gum up your needle and your bobbin, and it's a nightmare. And not only that, it'll gum up your scissors like crazy. So unless you use the oil, and then, you know, anyway. So that's that. I guess that's long enough for me to ramble on. But I'm gonna do another video here in a minute, because I really want to show you guys all this stuff that I got from the thrift store. It's so cool. And I need to launder it all, and of course I'm going to iron it. But then I want to do another video sometime soon, making the little drawstring bags, because those are super fun to make too. Okay, so there's my, there we go. All right, guys, I love you. Okay, thanks for hanging in there. Okay, bye for now.